All right. Welcome back to Verses and Vibes with Thinker and Bash. This is episode number 30. We're at episode 30. Yeah, we're trucking along. We're getting to the end of Genesis. The first book we've read an entire book, chapter by chapter. We're at the end today, I think is Genesis 38. It's really quickly Genesis 38, and I don't know if you want to do Genesis 39 if you have time. I know you're in the studio, but and then after that is Genesis 40 next week, and we'll be done with Genesis. I can't hear you, Bash. Are you talking? Uh-uh.
I must hit that by
Oh, okay.
mistake. My
Okay.
bad. I hit the mute button by mistake. My bad.
Well, what were you saying?
I was saying, yeah, man, we almost made it through one whole book. You know what I'm saying? That's really to be commended. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Yeah, that's exciting. Only 65 more to go.
65 more books to go. It'll probably
Yeah.
take us 5 years to get through this book.
Yeah, but you would
Yeah.
have read every word of it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, building these
Yeah.
concepts like that. Yeah, it gets more interesting, I think, because we've taken such a good time in Genesis, kind of, marking these little concepts that you're gonna run into later. As a matter of fact, I was talking to this. I don't even know who's. I don't even remember whose live it was, but we were talking about if the Israelites had the commandments before Moses broke them, right? And
Mhm.
and they were talking about how this lady was saying, yeah, they did, and because when they heard the thunder and the da 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 da, anyway, and I brought up to her that this was kind of like an overlay, a same trope from when Eve was in the garden, and the command was, don't touch. I mean, don't eat of the tree, and she said, we don't eat it and we don't touch it lest we die, and the same kind of thing happens over in Exodus where God tells Moses, hey, don't let them come up here because if they see me, they will die. And then they said, oh, we can't even hear him or we'll die. Right.
Oh,
And then
wow.
it's like it's that call back to that earlier thing that had happened in
Yeah.
Genesis. So when
Mhm.
once you learn that in Genesis, you'll see that again. Right. And so it's really, I'm really happy that we took that time.
It's
And,
interesting the things that we don't pick up on though, like when we because I never thought about that. That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, it's just little pieces like that, little callbacks and stuff that you'll see those little tropes happen again. And if you're not looking at it in that way, I'd be wondering how people see stuff like that anyway. But that's just something I had read. Like I read that in a book one day. Like, oh yeah, this is a callback to this. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, it makes sense. But like they were adding to the commandments, right? And it caused them to miss out. Anyway, the point being, same thing, just a callback to what had
Mm.
happened in Genesis.
Kind of like what we see today in Christianity, anyway. Like when we try to get people to stick to the book, I kept having to tell somebody on live last night not to add cereal to the chili, because it can like it's no longer chili, right? Like I don't know what you're eating. Like if you keep adding little things to it and then say, "Well, I'm not quoting the Bible," but if we're talking about the Bible and I'm quoting a scripture from the Bible to you, why are you quoting it and adding your own words in? Like you're just trying to cause confusion at that point and trying to
Yeah,
put your own, like it's no longer the Bible if you add your own, right? You're not quoting it anymore. You're
yeah.
not talking about the Bible. What's up, Nikita? But
She
so
came out,
like
Nikita.
yeah,
Yeah, she came out. It
yeah,
was a good to meet her.
yeah. It was her birthday. We were supposed to celebrate her birthday together.
Oh, happy belated! I didn't know it was your birthday. I would have bought you a drink. Sorry about that.
Yeah. And then Tori didn't get to go because I had her ticket and I was trying
Oh,
to get it to her in time. So like I while I was at the hospice, they were texting me trying to get their tickets, and it wasn't until we had went outside to smoke that I saw their messages. I checked the Discord, I saw the messages. So I got to get the tickets to uh G and Nikita and her niece, but Tori, I didn't get it to her in time. Well, I sent them the links, but the links wasn't working for some reason.
you know
Yeah,
what's
so
so crazy is they like if they had just come, I because it was just an RSVP link ticket, so I could have got them in even without it. But
oh, okay.
we, it's okay. I want to thank everybody that did come out, and we had such a good time. I'm still hurt, like but my, I'm still a little sore because I
Oh, what
danced
you do?
and
Oh,
I danced and cut up so bad.
mm.
Yeah, man, we had such a good time. It was so much fun. Sorry about that.
That's
Yeah, we had such a
okay.
good time. So I just want to thank Nashville and every all, especially all of the nerds and fishers that came out. Man, we had a blast.
Yeah, that's what's up. I really hate that I missed it. Like my daughter looked at me. She said, "Well, do you want to send all the stuff back?" I said, "No," because we had bought hats and boots, and I'm telling you, I spent a pretty penny. She's like, "Well, you want to send all the stuff back?" I was like, "No, because we're gonna use it." Like, yeah, like
Yeah.
I'm going in May to Alabama, but um, but I was telling him that, and so like we were reading Genesis 1, and there's a book I'm reading right now about queerness in the Bible and the mistranslations and the misconceptions. And the author pointed out that Genesis 1 is telling people to be vegetarian. And I was like, wait, Genesis, what is telling people to be vegetarian? So I went back and I read where it says, I have given you every plant, tree, of its
Herbs.
kind, yeah,
Yeah.
for food.
That's for
And
food.
I'm
Yep.
and I'm like, I never read that and thought vegetarian.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know yeah, but it's interesting the things that we miss reading the text. And then um the Hebrew word dovak ba for cling to.
Okay. So like,
um
okay.
I might be saying it wrong. Dovak ba,
Okay. Okay. No. Okay.
uh to cling to, that's used in like Genesis 2:24,
Hmm.
saying that uh the man cleaves to his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. That same word is used for Ruth and Naomi.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like you just like you don't realize that it's saying the exact same things when it says that Ruth clung to Naomi. It's saying the
Hmm.
same thing when it says and the man clings to his wife. And so like the relationship that Ruth and Naomi had, and it makes sense why they would use what Ruth said to Naomi in as wedding vows, because it's the same
Same
context.
kind of content. Yep.
Yeah, but it's interesting the things that we miss. But we are at Genesis 48
All right.
today. All right, let's rock and roll. Let's see. All right. After this, Joseph was told, your father is ill. So he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. When Jacob was told, your son Joseph has come to you, he summoned his strength and sat up in bed. And Jacob said to Joseph, God Almighty appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan, and he blessed me and said to me, I am going to make you fruitful and increase your numbers. I will make of you a company of peoples and will give this land to your offspring after you for a perpetual holding. Therefore, your two sons who were born to you in the land of Egypt before I came to you in Egypt are now mine. Ephraim and Manasseh shall be mine, just as Reuben and Simeon are. As for the offspring born to you after them, they shall be yours. They shall be recorded under the names of their brothers with regard to their inheritance. For when I came from Padam, Rachel, alas, died in the land of Canaan on the way, while there was still some distance to go to Ephrath. And I buried her there on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. When Israel saw Joseph's sons, he said, who are these? Joseph said to his father, they are my sons, whom God has given me here. And he said, bring them to me, please, that I may bless them. Now the eyes of Israel were dim with age, and he could not see well. So Joseph brought them near him, and he kissed them and embraced them. Israel said to Joseph, I did not expect to see your face, and here God has let me see your children also. Then Joseph removed them from his father's knees, and he bowed himself with his face to the earth. Joseph took them both, Ephraim in his right hand toward Israel's left, and Manasseh in his left hand towards Israel's right, and brought them near him. But Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on the head of Ephraim, who was the younger, and his left hand on the head of Manasseh, crossing his hands, for Manasseh was the firstborn. He blessed Joseph and said, the God before whom my ancestors Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who has been my shepherd all my life to this day, the angel who has redeemed me from all harm, bless the boys, and in them let my name be perpetuated, in the name of my ancestors Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude on the earth. When Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand on the head of Ephraim, it displeased him. So he took his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's head. Joseph said to his father, not so, my father. since this one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head. But his father refused and said, I know, my son, I know. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. Nevertheless, his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his offspring shall become a multitude of nations. So he blessed them that day, saying, By you, Israel will invoke blessings, saying, God make you like Ephraim and like Manasseh. So he put Ephraim ahead of Manasseh. Then Israel said to Joseph, I am about to die, but God will be with you and will bring you again to the land of your ancestors. I now give to you one portion more than to your brothers, the portion that I took from the hand of the Amorites with my sword and my bow. So Jacob is about to die, and it's the younger brother ruling the older brother trope all over again.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's pretty simple, but it's one part where it says that the boys was sitting on his lap. Hold on, I didn't understand this part. Um, he said, when Israel saw Joseph's son, he said, Who are these? Joseph said to his father, They are my sons, whom God has given me here, and he bring them to me, please, that I may bless them. It says, Now the eyes of Israel were dim with age, and he could not see well. So Joseph brought them near him. He kissed them and embraced them. Hold on. Okay. Then Joseph removed them from his father's knees. So they're sitting on Jacob's lap already, and he can't see them,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And then so Joseph goes, he removes the kids from his father's lap, and he bowed himself with his face to the earth. Then it says Joseph took them both, Ephraim in his right hand towards Israel's left, and Manasseh in his left hand towards Israel's right, and brought them near Jacob. But they were
Hmm.
already on Jacob's lap.
But he just took them off, right? So he just brought
Yeah.
them back, right? Yeah.
Where did he
Yeah.
take them to when he took them off?
Probably just moved them out of the way. I guess he didn't take them that far, but maybe he brought them closer. I don't know. Yeah. He didn't take them too far, I would assume. Maybe kicked
So
them
he
out.
saw them better when they weren't on his legs.
Tell him.
That's what I don't know. I guess that was that the way that's worded sounds confusing because it's like he couldn't see them while they were sitting on his lap, but he saw them better when they came off his lap and then he blessed them. That's what that was confusing to me. But yeah. So what are your thoughts on this one?
Again, you see the younger older trope there. You see that Ephraim is kind of later on all of Israel will be called Ephraim, and they kind of get that from this thing. Like when they speak about Israel, they'll say may God bless you like Ephraim and Manasseh, right? So you start to see that conflation of Ephraim and Israel. Right, that Ephraim is considered to be one of Israel's boys, not just one of his grandchildren, but one of his boys, right? Again, uh, so like Joseph is like there is no tribe of Joseph, right? So in
Right.
the 12, there's no so you get this half tribe of Ephraim and Manasseh, right? Technically there are 13 tribes in Israel, because there's Dan, and then Dan goes away, and so it's back to 12. And blah, blah, blah. So you see this kind of history of Israel going in these numbers in all these different directions, and these stories are trying to like set the precedent for how Israel will be seen later. Well, why do we call them? Why is Northern Israel called Ephraim? Right. Well,
Mm-hmm.
because of this. Right. So this is one of those etiologies, like why is Israel called Ephraim? Well, it's called
Okay.
Ephraim because of this, right?
Okay. So this is an etiological term.
Yes.
Okay. And so when he said right here, um, uh, I know it's become a people. It should be greater. Should be greater. Um, and his offspring shall become a multi. So wait, he said something about he'll be mine, and but his descendants will be less.
You
Is that in this one or is that in the next one? Am I reading ahead? Am
might
I
be in the
still
next one.
thinking?
What,
Oh,
what were you
okay.
trying to say there? What were you trying to say
Because
there? Maybe I'll
he
say.
said that Ephraim is like Jacob's son. Jacob is saying like Ephraim is his son, like you said.
Mhm.
But then he said his descendants will be like Manasseh, like Jacob's descendants. I mean, Ephraim's descendants are not Jacob's.
No,
Oh,
yeah. He's saying count Ephraim as my son, like count him
mhm.
like one of my boys. his children will be his children. Like, but they're not my children.
Yeah.
He's my kid. Like,
Okay.
because remember
What's the what
Joseph,
was the purpose of him saying that?
so that he could bless it. Keep in mind, Joseph doesn't get a blessing right here, right? And
Okay.
normally you bless your children, right?
Oh, okay, okay.
Right. But he doesn't bless Joseph's children. And so he's saying these kids that you have right now, if you have any more kids, them yours. But these two boys right
Oh.
here are mine.
Oh, okay. I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I thought he was saying Ephraim's kids are not his descendants, but Ephraim was his descendant. I get it now.
Yeah. You see
So
what I'm
he's
saying? Yeah.
telling Joseph, these are my
These two boys are mine.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. And that's how Ephraim is in Israel.
In
It's like in
Israel.
the okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. That makes sense now. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Because that confused me too. All
Yeah.
right.
Because technically, Ephraim and Manasseh should have been like the tribes of Joseph. You get what I'm saying? But
Yeah,
they're considered the sons of Israel
of
because
Israel.
Israel kind of adopted them there and said, okay, these two boys are mine. Any other kids you have, they can be yours, but these are mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Anything else in this chapter?
That's really about it that I wanted to talk about it next. But again, just make sure everybody that's paying attention, make sure you see that older, younger trope there. Also, make sure it's specifically two things: the older, younger trope, and then the trope of adoption. That's really important here. That this adoptive principle is going to work. You're going to see that a bunch later on in the book, where like somebody will be like, "Oh, that's my son," right? Uh, e- e- Even this whole thing, like oh my God, the
Kind of like
story.
Naomi
Like
adopted
no,
Ruth's
yes,
child.
yes, 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 yes. That's I could that slipped my brain. I couldn't get that out of my head for nothing. Yes, but you'll see these little adoption things where like a grandfather or a grandmother will be like, okay, that's my kid. All the other kids can be yours, but that was mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That makes sense. Okay. But I gotta be with you, bring you again to the land. Okay, I was trying to think in my head. When did Jacob fight the Amorites? Am I missing something?
I don't remember this, but I was about to bring that up too. I don't I thought I was like, when did he do that? I don't remember him fighting the Amorites. Did we? I don't recall this battle.
I don't either.
Well, when he went to go visit his brother, when Jacob went, did he fight Amorites on the way there?
I don't remember that. I gotta do a Google for that verse because I don't
Yeah.
remember that. Um
He did get into a fight one day. Did when he fought with the angel that time.
but that is that considered the Amorite?
I'm saying, but did he get into another fight after that when he fought with the angel? Am I bugging?
Okay, it says no, it says Jacob never directly fought the Amorites in biblical narrative.
Okay.
Jacob claimed to have taken a portion of land from the Amorites with his sword and bow, which is often interpreted as a metaphorical victory. How are you metaphorically on your deathbed? Like I thought I was losing it. I'm like, when did Jacob fight the Amorites? Did we skip a chapter?
Yeah, not yeah. Well, I was just like, when did he do that? I don't know. Maybe they just didn't tell us about that. I don't know.
So if he says, I now give you one portion more than to your brothers, the portion that he gave him nothing then. Like he gave because he ain't fighting no dang Amorite. Hold on. So he put Ephraim ahead of Manasseh. Then Israel said to Joseph, I am about to die, but God will be with you and will bring you again to the land of your ancestors. And he's saying this to who right now? Manasseh or Ephraim? To
I think it's
Ephraim.
to Ephraim. Yeah.
Okay. I now give to you one portion more than to your brothers, the portion that I took from the hand of the Amorites with my sword. Like he didn't give him nothing because he didn't take nothing. That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Ready to go to
What's a metaphorical victory? What does that mean?
I don't know. That's what it says on Google. It says while Jacob never directly fought the Amorites in a biblical narrative, Jacob claimed to have taken a portion of land from the Amorites with his sword and bow, which is often interpreted as a metaphorical victory or a blessing received from God.
What?
Uh, yeah.
What?
Some interpretations suggest this passage refers to Jacob's metaphorical conquest or a blessing from God rather than a literal military victory. Jewish sages explain that Jacob's sword and bow refer to his prayers and supplications before God, which are the real instrument. They just be making up shit, Bash. Because
What?
why you bring the Amorites into your metaphorical victory, like your metaphorical prayers? Like, why are the Amorites? And then you passing on this metaphorical victory on your deathbed. How do they come up with these interpretations? Like, it does not make sense.
I am floored right now. Like what? Like that doesn't even what? What is a metaphorical victory? I don't understand what that means. I don't understand what that means. And how do you give someone the fruits of a metaphorical victory? Like what does that how does that what does that do? What does that do?
Could this be a like a redaction, like a consequence of a redacted story about Joseph? Like, could there have been a oral tradition passed around in antiquity about Joseph fighting the Amorites and getting a victory, and the author of Genesis 38 knew of that oral tradition and wrote this in?
That's possible. That's very possible. But because again, we haven't read it so far, so it could be that could be some oral story. When the first thing that made me think was I should go look in the book of Jasher and see if there's a story of it in the book of Jasher. Because sometimes you can find like other little other little like connector stories in Jasher. But yeah, maybe that was an oral tradition and it just got redacted, and this is a piece that was left from an earlier redaction.
It's got to be like because a metaphorical victory don't, and passing that metaphorical land
That's
down on your deathbed is diabolical.
That's heavy felonious work. It is.
Oh, it says the Book of Jasher does reference his song. It does reference his sons engaging in battle against the Amorites. Yeah, the Book of Jasher does.
Okay, yeah, that's yeah, maybe it's something like that. So there might have been some oral tradition that went around that said that this battle happened, but in the redaction in Genesis, they don't put that story in there, and so you just got that little leftover piece.
Oh, could this is that when the boys fought for Dinah?
They went in.
That's
Were
not
those
Amorite. They're
Amorites?
not Amorites, are they?
I don't think those are Amorites.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
And did they take the
I
land out of that? Did they get land out of that? No, where was that boy from? Though, wait. Where was that boy from?
uh what chapter is that when Dinah was great?
I do not remember. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can go find. Well, you got the Google. You got Google.
Let me see.
Because they were from somewhere. I forget where they was from now.
Shechem,
Kim.
the
No,
son
that's
of
not.
Hamor.
Yeah.
Relates to the story. The daughter Leah and Jacob left home one day to visit the women of the region. With Shechem, the son of Hamor, the prince of the region, saw her seized her and great
Son of who?
Hamor. Hamor.
Hamor. Oh,
That's Genesis 34.
yeah. But they weren't Amorites, were they?
Uh, I gotta see. Hold on. Mm, can y'all see this screen? I'm on Genesis 34. I'm still on it. Okay.
You're on Genesis 34. Yeah.
When Shechem, son of Hamor, Havite, prince of the region, saw her seized. The crazy thing, it just says prince of the region. It doesn't say what land they
Right.
were in.
Okay.
But Shechem is in Israel, right?
Well, I
The north.
mean, that doesn't really help because keep in mind they saying that they're giving you this land, right? So all
Mhm.
of it's in Israel, right? But was it originally Amorite territory that's now in Israel?
Let's see. Does it say they took land? They
So I
circumcised.
thought,
Now he was the youngest of the family. Uh, yeah. Will not their livestock, their property, and all their animals be ours? We agree with them, and they live amongst us. And all who went into the city heeded her more. Okay. Came against City and killed the males. They killed Hamor and his son Shechem with a sword, took Dinah out of Shechem's house and went away. Plundered the city. They took their flocks, their herds, their donkeys, and whatever was in the city in the field. All their wealth, all their little ones and their wives, all that was in the houses, they captured and made their prey. Nope, they didn't take the land.
We took the people and the stuff.
Yeah. And then Jacob got mad
Got
that
mad.
they
Yeah,
did
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
So I don't know what Jacob talking about. He gave them a metaphorical blessing because that don't even make sense.
Metaphorical blessings is crazy work. Crazy.
Yeah. It says like in the book of Jasher, following the destruction of Shechem by Simeon and Levi, the surrounding Amorite kings united to retaliate against Jacob and his family. Jacob, distressed by this coalition, prepared for a potential conflict. In response to the Amorite threat, Jacob's 10 sons, along with their servants, armed themselves and confronted the Amorite forces. Despite being outnumbered, they successfully defeated their family and holdings. The sons of Jacob engaged in intense combat against the inhabitants of Gaash, a fortified Amorite city. Despite facing formidable opposition, they emerged victorious, showcasing their valor and strategic prowess. That's in the book of
Jasher.
Jasher.
Yeah.
So this author is retelling what they know from the book of Jasher, I guess, or oral
I think,
tradition.
I'm not sure when the Book of Jasher was written yet. I would vote. I would vote oral tradition because I think Jasher was written after this. I think.
Okay. Let's see, Jasher, 18th century. The Book of Jasher mentioned in the Bible is a lost book, and the modern Book of Jasher is an 18th century literary forgery. So it was written in
Yeah.
18th century
Yeah.
CE.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's written much later. So, but
Okay.
that so I'm assuming that this is just some oral tradition that's going around amongst the factions, and they didn't tell the whole story. When you redacted it all, it's not in there. You get what I'm saying? So they didn't put that battle in the Book of Genesis, but it's probably some oral tradition that went around that just didn't make the cut.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right. That makes sense. Okay. And this is why you read and research.
yeah,
All right. Okay. And then the next one we get into the blessings and the curses. Well, we
yeah,
get into the blessings that sound like curses, or the blessings that
yeah.
are curses. Because that we got metaphorical victories, metaphorical land,
Metaphorical land is still crazy to me. That's crazy.
a double portion of metaphorical land at that. And now we're about to get into blessings that are actually curses being passed down on his deathbed.
He was a little crazy. He was getting old. He didn't know no better.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. It says after this, Joseph was told your wait, it should be 49, right?
Mm,
Yeah. Okay. Um, Then Jacob called his sons and said, gather around that I may tell you what will happen to you in days to come. Assemble and hear, O sons of Jacob, listen to Israel your father. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, and the first fruits of my vigor, excelling in rank and excelling in power. Unstable as water, you shall no longer excel because you went up unto your father's bed, then you defiled it. You went up unto my couch. Simeon and Levi are brothers. Weapons of violence are their swords. May I never come into their council. May I not be joined to their company, for in their anger they killed men, and at their whim they hamstrung oxen. That is so odd that he's giving that curse when he just gave a blessing from it, a metaphorical blessing because of it.
yeah.
Cursed be their it doesn't make sense. Cursed be their anger, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. Judah, your brother shall praise you. Your hands shall be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's sons shall bow down before you. Judah is a lion's whelp from the prey. My son, you have gone up. He crouches down, he stretches out like a lion, like a lioness who dares rouse him up. I think this is what the Hebrew Israelites like, that the whole lion of
Mm-hmm.
Judah. That's why everybody
Mm-hmm.
chooses Judah.
Mm-hmm.
Looks cool.
Mm-hmm.
The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet until tribute comes to him. and the obedience of the people is his. Binding his foal to the vine and his donkey's colt to the choice vine, he washes his garments in wine and his robe in the blood of grapes. His eyes are darker than wine and his teeth whiter than milk. Zebulun shall settle at the shore of the sea. He shall be a haven for ships, and his border shall be at Sidon. Issachar is a strong donkey, lying down between the sheepfolds. He saw that a resting place was good, and that the land was pleasant. So he bowed his shoulder to the burden and became a slave at forced labor. Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan shall be a snake by the roadside, a viper along the path that bites the horse's heels, so that its riders fall backward. I wait for your salvation, O Lord. Gad shall be raided by raiders, but he shall raid at their heels. Asher's food shall be rich, and he shall provide royal delicacies. Naphtali is a doe let loose that bears lovely fawns. Joseph is a fruitful bow by a spring. His branches run over the wall. The archers fiercely attacked him. They shot at him and pressed him hard. Yet his bow remained taut, and his arms were made agile by the hands of the mighty one of Jacob, by the name of the shepherd, the rock of Israel, by the God of your father who will help you, by the Almighty who will bless you with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lies beneath, blessings of the breast and of the womb. The blessings of your father are stronger than the blessings of the eternal mountains. The bounties of the everlasting hills, may they be on the head of Joseph, on the brow of him who was set apart from his brothers. Benjamin is a ravenous wolf, and the morning devouring the prey, and at evening dividing the spoil. All these, but Joseph's blessing was long, like all
Mm-hmm.
like the favoritism is ridiculous. All
Mm-hmm.
these are the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is what their father said to them when he blessed them, blessing each one of them with a suitable blessing. Then he charged them, saying to them, I'm about to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my ancestors in the cave in the field of Ephron the Hittite, and the cave in the field of Machpelah near Mamre, in the land of Canaan, in the field that Abraham bought from Ephron the Hittite as a burial site. There Abraham and his wife Sarah were buried. There Isaac and his wife Rebekah were buried, and there I buried Leah. The field and the cave that is in it were purchased from the Hittites. When Jacob ended his charge to his sons, he drew up his feet into his bed, breathed his last, and was gathered to his people.
Okay. So you see, okay, keep in mind this Joseph blessing is really going to Ephraim, right? Because he's counting Ephraim as Ephraim and Manasseh as his sons. So all this
Mhm.
stuff that's going with Joseph, we're not going to hear from Joseph no more, right?
After
Once
this,
Joseph died,
nothing else. Oh,
yeah,
okay. He
after this,
dies. Okay, he dies in Exodus 1, right?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
or yeah, sometime before Exodus 1, because it basically just say that they grew up and then there arose a Pharaoh that didn't know Joseph, right? So we don't know
Mhm.
exactly when he died. I don't think it says exactly when he dies. Or does it? Maybe it does in the next
I
chapter.
think
Anyway,
it does.
yeah, but after Joseph died, you ain't gonna really hear Joseph's name no more, right?
Mhm.
So then we talking to just Ephraim and Manasseh. So this blessing that Joseph is getting is really the blessing of Ephraim and Manasseh, right?
Okay.
Uh, all of this big heavy work is going down to Ephraim and Manasseh. But picture also in this, because this kind of sets up the duality between Judah and Ephraim, right? Because he declares that Judah is the king, right?
Mhm.
The scepter is not going to depart from Judah, right? And
Mhm.
okay, so you got Judah being like the king, and then you got this huge blessing that God is going to give you the blessings of heaven and the earth and the deep and yada 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 and all the mountains. And this is the greatest blessing of all times going to the tribes of Joseph, right? So you starting to see this dichotomy between not necessarily dichotomy, but this like juxtaposition between Judah's kingship and Ephraim's, I guess, rulership, because they don't really call him they really make king type stuff at him. But like this huge blessing that's being poured on the children of Joseph. You get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And that's exactly how the kingdom gets split later on. It's Judah and Ephraim and Manasseh,
Mhm.
or Ephraim, I should say.
Ephraim.
Then you see that it's the setup as to why all the Levites kind of live amongst everybody. right? That Levi does not get land of his own. He does Levi. I don't know what did Simeon. You don't really hear much about the tribe of Simeon either, but Levi specifically, he doesn't get a blessing. Well, not a his inheritance is God Himself. But point being,
But
Levi doesn't get
he gets
like
to be wealthy though, right? Like he gets all the tithes, right?
yeah, yeah,
Levites
yeah.
they get all the tithes. They were the
They get
wealth.
out of time.
They were more wealthier than the kings of. I mean, the chiefs of each tribe, right? The
Absolutely,
Levites
right?
were.
Absolutely. But that's because they had scammed. They had devised a scheme. They came up with a scam. That's why. And so basically, but they didn't get land, right? So that
Mhm.
they basically lived off the land of everybody else. You know what I'm saying? And people brought them. Technically, Levi got the best blessing out of it, if you really wanted to be honest. Because they didn't have to pay in taxes. They didn't have to. They didn't pay. You get what I'm saying? They kind of got
Mhm.
off. They
They
got
got all the
houses.
spoil. Like when they said, God said, go up to this land and ravish this land and bring the booty to God and to the like to the Levites
Yep.
for the they got it. It went to them.
Yep, they didn't have to do none of the work. They didn't have to break. They technically got off.
And they weren't what the priests were the most powerful, right? Like
Yep,
even when they started building their monarchy, the priests had the final say on like who could be king, like
yep,
what the laws were. Like the priests were more powerful than the king.
absolutely. Until you got to David. David kind of set as his own priest and prophet almost, right? Because David was in there getting showbread. David was in there just kind of wilding. He kind of did whatever
Which
he
is
wanted to
odd.
do.
Which is odd because that's why Samuel uh had Saul replaced because he Saul took into his authority, right, to offer up the sacrifice, and that was
Yep,
Samuel's doing, right?
yep,
Samuel was supposed to do that as the prince. I mean, as the priest, and so he saw Saul trying to overstep his authority as a king and push back on the priests because they had the highest authority.
yeah,
And so he replaced he says God does it, but he replaces Saul as king with David because this is this poor uh sheep herder son,
hmm,
right? And I think that Samuel didn't think that David would push back and try to like exercise his authority as king over the priests and the prophets.
yeah, and that continues until Josiah when they finally got a king that they could kind of work their magic on, for lack of better terms. Right. Like
Yeah.
they finally got a king that was like, okay, this is what we're supposed to do, Josiah. We're supposed to do it like this.
Mhm.
Right. And then Josiah goes through that whole big reform and blah blah. The priests get to get back to
They
what they
trick
wanted
him
to do.
with that
Yeah.
book. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so but what happened to Simeon?
I don't know what. Like you don't really hear much about the tribe of Simeon, really much, period. Right? Like, but Simeon is in there right here with Levi. They like the two dastardly brothers, but you don't really hear much about the tribe of Simeon going forward. They kind of just extras in the story, right?
Yeah.
Like they kind of just extras in the story. Really, you don't hear much about most of the tribes in this book. You're gonna find out later on that Dan just kind of wanders off. Like they just disappear. Dan just literally disappears. When you read about the tribes of Israel in the book of Revelation, they don't even mention Dan. Like they
Yeah.
just don't mention them at all. And it says like Dan like walked off somewhere. They just left. Um, didn't- Nobody knows what. It's kind of like that hat. You remember that song "Hot Ones" by Bobby Shmurda. And
Mm-mm.
truly, I'm a hot nigga. Like a brother when you shot niggas. Uh. And if you ain't a hoe, get up out my trap house. Anyway, in the video, Bobby Shmurda throws this hat in the air and the hat just never comes down. Like we don't know what happened to that hat. It's one of the greatest mysteries of all times. When that hat goes up in the air, and we don't know what happens to it. That's what happens to Dan. Dan just kind of walks off one day, and you just never hear from Dan again.
Dang, that's crazy.
They just disappeared. The
I
tribe of
thought Dan
Dan.
was a tribe that like had all the ships. Like they brought the ships and is that not Dan?
I think it's in numbers. When we get over the numbers, remember I told you this.
Okay.
Dan just disappears. Watch what I tell you. They just walk off. And when you read about the tribes of Israel in Revelation, where they list all the tribes, they do not mention Dan.
So do you think Ephraim, like you know how they like wrote these texts over time, right? Do you
Mhm.
think Ephraim replaced Dan in the?
Technically,
Okay.
yeah, technically, because it ends up being 12. Like right now, if let's say Israel had um all these children. He had 12 boys and a girl, right? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And Dan was in that 12 boys and a girl, right? So Dan was one of them. Dan goes away, and which means he would have 11 boys and a girl. Right. Dan
Mm-hmm.
Dan goes away. Joseph technically goes away, right? So you don't count Joseph as a tribe and you don't count Dan as a tribe, right?
Mm-hmm.
You replace Joseph and Dan with Ephraim and Manasseh. So he's back to having 12 boys,
Okay.
right? But
But Manasseh listed in Revelations as one of the tribes?
Manasseh is listed as
Okay.
one of the tribes, right? So Ephraim is a tribe, Manasseh is a tribe, now all the other boys are there. But Joseph isn't listed as a tribe, and Dan isn't listed as a tribe,
Okay. Okay.
right?
I get it.
But you still end up with 12 boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, but technically it should be like 14, right? Because if you had the 12, when you add Dan and
Joseph.
Joseph back, and then you add Ephraim and Manasseh, you would have 14 kids,
Mm-hmm.
14 boys, right? But you take away Dan, you take away Joseph, and you replace them with Ephraim and Manasseh, you still got 12.
Do you think that that was done? Because you can see the jealousy in it. The story of it's not supposed to be them; it's supposed to be us,
Right.
right? And so, like, as these two kingdoms are living opposite of each other, kind of somewhat like close with I think what was in the middle. What land was in the middle of the Benjamin where the tribe of Benjamin was? What's that?
Benjamin
It's
lived in Judah, but
but they were on the line of the north. They were like
yeah,
that. They fought over Benjamin because they were like kind of both.
yeah.
It's not called Shechem, is it?
I don't think it's called Shechem. I think Samaria was right there on that line.
It's a hold on, let me find out. Um uh I forgot the I know that like there Benjamin sat in like a weird place. Uh east of the Jordan River,
East of the Jordan.
west the tribe of Dan in the territory of Philistia. Like
Okay.
so they sat kind of like in both territories, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. And so damn, I lost what I was even trying to say about the replacing. Oh, okay. So like you got the north growing fast agriculturally. They got all of this architecture and wealth and education, right?
Mm-hmm.
These urban centers, and then you have the south. They're still sheep herders, pastoralists, or like uh, still village,
Mm-hmm.
um, small villages. But they are writing as if they are also their kingdom is building, growing at the same time as the north, but they're not. Like they're
They're not.
literally this metaphorical victory, this metaphorical kingdom,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And they didn't start growing as a monarchy or like getting any attention. Like nobody even cared who the South was, who Judah
Yeah.
was, while Ephraim was growing, while the North was growing. But they didn't. After the North gets conquered, then the South starts getting their attention. But they were sending messages to people in the North saying, "You're supposed to be in Judah. This is what our father always stated, that it was Judah that was supposed to be
Mm-hmm.
blessed, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And so, do you think them replacing Dan with Ephraim is kind of like like it's that so that they
This
could connect themselves to the north because they wasn't really connected to the north?
Well, Ephraim was connected to. Oh, you talking about Judah could
Yeah,
replacing them?
Judah. Yeah.
It it could be. You know, I say a lot of times about specifically the Book of Genesis because of these redactions, and you got people coming from the south, coming from the north, and they all kind of telling they version of the story. They they argue a lot about who what belongs to who, right? Like or what should belong to who. So I can see that as a position piece, right? You know, getting rid of Dan, and yeah, I can see that a position piece. Yeah.
Yeah, because Israel Finkelstein says that there is an anachronism with adding Salem in the story where Abraham gets victory for Lot to go when he goes back to get Lot back, and he's
Hmm.
fighting Catalyst. What's his name? I can't say his name. The king of Sodom and Catalesar, Catalemesar. I can't say his name. The
The
king.
king of Sodom. Oh, I know you're talking about Chazar. I know you're talking about. I can't think his
Yeah.
name either, but yeah,
But Abraham gets victory, and
yeah.
then Melchizedek comes to him. He's like, "Oh, the God of uh, what do you call him at that time? El Shaddai gave you the victory." And he's
Hmm.
like, he's the God. He's from Salem,
Yeah.
and um, he's saying that to even mention Salem, which is a reference to Jerusalem at that time,
Hmm.
is out of place. It's like calling. It's like early North America saying mentioning Washington DC, like a writer mentioned, Washington DC,
Right. Right.
you know, and that he said that the writer did that to connect Abraham to both tribes, to both the North and the South,
Yes.
to show, like, to go back in history, like, look, see Abraham, like from the very beginning, the North was connected to Abraham,
Yes.
and yeah,
Yeah. And so was Jerusalem. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that God was connected to Jerusalem, and there wasn't no Jerusalem. But yeah.
Yeah. So that's what makes me think that it's kind of like they're trying to show that they've always been connected to the North, and like their success, and that the success that the North got, they weren't supposed to have, because it was always supposed to be
In the south.
Judah's, the black, yeah, because the
Yeah.
younger is supposed to have ruled the older.
Yeah. Yeah. I can
The
see that.
first shall be last, and the last shall be first. That's what the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. That's what I think that's referring to.
Yeah, I can see that as a position piece that way. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anything else in this?
I think that does it for
Yeah.
that.
All righty. Thank y'all for showing up on this Sunday morning. I appreciate y'all. Hey, Mama Bash.
Hey,
What's
baby.
up, TT? All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all. My mind is all over the place, but we'll be back next Sunday.
Yep.
Are you traveling back home today,
Uh,
or
no, no, no. I'm actually in Nashville till April the 2nd. Um,
what?
yeah, yeah. I'm here for a while.
Okay.
I'm doing not a show, but I'm doing a writers round next Friday at 10 Pan South. It's like this big like writers thing. I got to figure out where it is, but you guys can come out to that too. It's gonna be free. But I'm gonna
Okay.
sing a couple songs, but this is gonna be acoustic. Sing a couple
Okay.
acoustic songs. And we're gonna talk about how we wrote these songs. So, like it's like a writers thing where writers get together and tell you like, oh, I wrote this song, la da da da. It's a lot of fun. I did
Can
one a
people
couple
ask
years ago.
questions? Because my daughter is writing. She has a song on Apple Music now.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see how this one goes because sometimes they do let people ask questions in some of the rooms.
Okay.
Sometimes, but I'll find out. I'll find out.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. And I will definitely be there. Fingers crossed.
Man, it's gonna be all right. Things gonna be well. Y'all keep thinking your thoughts, man, for sure. And we definitely, we're here for you if you need anything, darling.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I will see y'all on live tonight. And we got to get together and have breakfast or lunch or something before you go.
Absolutely, we'll do it.
Okay.
All
All
right, y'all
right.
be good.
All right. Love y'all.